Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wondered if the flashing lights and sounds on slot machines actually change how we gamble? Well, this new study dives deep into that very question. Imagine you are playing an online slot machine. You spin the reels and boom, you win. Suddenly, the screen explodes with color, music plays, and coins seem to shower down. This is called sensory feedback, or SF. It is the bells and whistles that make winning feel exciting. But does this flashy feedback actually change our behavior? Researchers wanted to find out if these audiovisual cues, like those in real online gambling, influence not just how much fun we think we're having, but also how we play and how much we might lose. So, what did they do? They created a super realistic online slot machine game and then messed with the sound and visuals. They had two versions of the game. One had lots of flashy, enhanced sensory feedback, let's call it SF fine. The other had much less, just the basic highlighting of winning lines, which they called SF. They recruited people and split them into two main groups: active online gamblers, meaning they've gambled recently, and non-gamblers, who haven't. Everyone played 200 spins on one of the versions of the slot machine. As they played, the researchers tracked things like how fast they spun the reels, how much they bet, and after the game, they asked them how immersed they felt, how they were feeling emotionally, and how many wins they thought they had. They used a realistic multi-line slot machine simulator in the web browser. Participants were randomly assigned to either the enhanced sensory feedback SFE condition or a version with diminished sensory feedback SF. They were given an initial amount of virtual money. And at the end of 200 spins, any leftover virtual money was converted into a bonus, meaning they were motivated to finish with profit. Now, for the juicy part, what did they find? Did the flashy sounds make people gamble more or less, or feel more or less excited? First, it turns out that the enhanced sensory feedback, the SFI, actually made people play faster. They took less time between spins. So it seems like those extra sounds and lights can speed up the pace of play. But here's a key point. While the sensory feedback sped things up, it didn't change how much people bet per spin. It also didn't seem to affect how much people felt immersed in the game, or their overall positive or negative feelings during play. That is interesting, right? The bells and whistles didn't make the game more engaging emotionally. Instead of the flashy sounds, what did affect how people felt during the game? Monetary outcomes. If people ended up winning money, they reported feeling more immersed and had more positive feelings. And for those who are more prone to gambling problems, things like higher scores on a Problem Gambling Severity Index, or PGSI. And symptoms of ADHD and depression were linked to greater immersion and stronger emotional reactions to the game. This suggests that personal characteristics and the actual money won or lost played a much bigger role in the game experience than the sensory feedback did. And about those win estimates, the study didn't find that the sensory feedback made people overestimate how often they were winning. However, they did notice that people across the board did overestimate their wins. So that might be a general pattern in slot machine play, but the sensory feedback wasn't the culprit here. So what is the big takeaway from all this? The researchers found that while the sensory feedback did speed up the game, which could lead to more losses over time because you are playing more spins, it didn't really change how engaged or emotional people felt during the game. The real drivers of game experience were the actual money outcomes and, importantly, the individual's personal characteristics. If you are more prone to gambling problems, you'll likely experience more immersion and stronger emotions regardless of the flashing lights. This suggests that the story of the game, the actual monetary wins and losses, and the player's own vulnerabilities and tendencies are far more powerful in shaping their gambling experience than the flashy sounds and lights alone. This is a really important point for public health. It means both the design of the gambling product and the personal characteristics of the individual contribute to the risk of gambling harm. Now, the study does have some limitations because it was an online study. They couldn't control every single variable perfectly, and the sample size for non-gamblers was smaller than planned. They also had to deal with some data quality issues, which is common in online research. Plus, the sensory feedback they created was for a simulator, and real-world gambling environments are different. With more distractions, they also couldn't guarantee that everyone's sound settings were the same. Despite these limits, the findings have important implications. The fact that sensory feedback can speed up play is a concern. Regulators should definitely look into this, as faster play can mean bigger losses. It also highlights that personalized messaging about responsible gambling might be more effective, given how much individual characteristics influence the gambling experience. So to wrap it up, this study tells us that while the bells and whistles of online slot machines can make us play faster, they don't necessarily make the game more engaging or change our emotional experience. That seems to be driven more by whether we're winning money and by our own personal traits and predispositions. It's a reminder that gambling harm is a complex issue, influenced by both the products we use and who we are. What do you think about this research? Does the idea of sensory feedback influencing speed of play surprise you? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more science stories, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the fascinating world of psychology. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.